Well, my name is Darren Grundell. I'm the Vice President of Government Relations and Traffic Safety for Responsibility.org, also the Director of the National Alliance to Stop Impaired Driving. For today's Facebook live stream, we are excited to welcome Vito Montone. Vito is the Chief Operating Officer for ONUS Rides, overseeing business, marketing, and sales. He is an award-winning multi-platform professional with 30-plus years of research, strategy, brand development, planning, and creative production and management experience. Versed across an array of channels, categories, and industries, Vito is skilled in collaborating with stakeholders, staff, and vendors of Fortune 100 agencies and startups. So we're very excited to have Vito with us today. Today, we will discuss the safe systems approach. Can we prevent impaired driving? As well as how ONUS and rideshare programs help prevent impaired driving, as people to continue to venture out to restaurants, bars, and various activities where maybe alcohol or drugs are involved. If you have any questions throughout this presentation, please type them into the comment box. We will also be distributing Vito's email address at the end so you can reach out to him directly. So let's get started. So welcome, Vito. It's nice to have you on our Facebook Live show today.
Well, thank you. Oh, thank you very much. And it's great to see you again and have the opportunity to share what's on our mind. Thanks.
Yeah. So we have a list of questions for you. So starting off, our first one is, the National Transportation Safety Board, Jennifer Homendy, has called for us to reach for zero impaired fatalities in the United States. Why do you think that is possible?
Well, boy, that is a tall order, isn't it?
Yes.
And learned about it at the governor's conference. The cool thing that I'm really encouraged by is that this system, the safe systems approach, helped the airline industry holistically reach zero, which was really surprising and encouraging at the same time. And it's the reason I think it's possible is that there are areas that we haven't really explored yet, but it's this holistic view of roads, regulations, vehicles, caring for people, as well as the drivers themselves. And I think that's where the hint is at what we can be doing much differently. And with 30% of the highway fatalities from impaired driving and being kind of flat, we need to think outside the box. And I think this is going to open up the chance to do that. So I think we should be well on the road to that soon.
Absolutely. You know, I'm going to go a little bit off our script here for just a second, But I wanted to just mention, if you've never read the book, The Fifth Discipline by Peter Senge, it is a great kind of a book that addresses a lot of how do we address the systems approach. And when we make decisions in one system, how does that impact others?
Yeah, it messes up the other one. Yeah, exactly. You have to be holistic. It's really a challenge to, most of us are very linear, so thinking holistically is a sort of a new tool.
Yeah, and I think oftentimes we've worked I think within traffic safety, we work kind of in some various silos. And how do we help break out of that and actually get people on board so that, one, they know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what are the impacts to them, and how can they help us in return? So
exactly.
So I know I've often heard you speak about the last mile in fighting impaired driving. Could you share with our audience, what do you mean by that?
Well, in my technology background, I certainly was exposed to it about that last mile of reaching every house with fiber or faster internet. And now we still have, bad spots in the country, but we've really gone beyond just regions, states, and cities. We actually reach houses. So I think we need to add something to our broad reach tools, which are education and enforcement. And the last mile to me means the actual person. And this sounds a little strange to say, but we talk to them in broad marketing terms like please don't drink and drive. Please, here's the impacts. What, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. But in reality, how do we reach them and give them tools right in their hands that they use every day? And I think this is the last mile where we can impact them in a personal way.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of those things that we really need to reach is the heart, the mind, and helping them to make those better decisions. You know, so you just mentioned education and enforcement. What do you see are some practical limits within that field of education in this area and enforcement?
Well, you know, there's so many great strides and excellent efforts have been made in those two areas. And it's what's weird psychologically is to actually think of limits and then some practical limits. So I know in education, especially like Psychology Today talks about just modifying their behavior through fear or concern is a way that people can just ignore the message. It's not really in their hands. They're not using it themselves. They're just being talked to. So there's a natural limit that doesn't matter how much money we spend, there's going to be a limit. And then of course, reaching broad marketing, as you know, advertising and marketing to the nation through television, radio, all these different medias are very, very expensive. So the question is, how do we can target something so specifically that it's really cost effective? And I think enforcement has some unfortunate things, like certainly local budget constraints and money constraints, but now we have this sort of cultural manpower challenges. And I think from you know, the NASA event, still rings in my head where someone was asking about, can we test them before they even get in the car? Well, you know, we run into the limit of constitutionality where you can't impose yourself that way. So we do need another tool.
Yes. You know, there are some things out there, you know, for alcohol devices that have been marketed and that kind of thing that, you know, do they test themselves before they leave, and other things. But, you know, you make some great points about how powerful education can be. And I think it's some of those things that, you know, in your view, what would be some out of the box ideas to kind of add to the existing, I guess, the curriculum for education and that enforcement, and maybe some of the countermeasures that are involved with education and enforcement?
Well, I think a new category has to be added to those two important tools. And I hope I'll share about what I think that tool is. But one of the interesting parts about this holistic view, there's two things that really stand out to me. One is the vehicles themselves, which I'm very excited, but it's a long road. So sorry for the double meaning there. And the drivers themselves. So new technology is going to be fueled by smart cars, electric cars, and all kinds of things. I mean, a Tesla is a computer, it's not a car. So there's going to be some things that I think we can see about impairment detection passively that are going to be really important and exciting. But that's, as I said, that's a really long road. I think since we can't stop everybody every time, I think we have to look at how do we modify the driver's behavior and their attitude to going out. And I think I was really encouraged again at the governor's convention because the DUI court program, where they were using modification techniques to encourage people and reduce recidivism, which is amazing. So we know it works on that end of the spectrum. So how do we do something on the front end of the spectrum where we can change behavior and attitudes? It's just easy to tune out the message when it's inconvenient. We need to find a way to put it into their hands. And I think that's faster than, even though technology is going rapidly, it's faster than waiting for the cars to actually sense whether you're impaired or not. And I think I'm excited about that, but I think it's a long road.
Yeah, you know, my previous experience with the state highway safety offices, and we were looking at some of the autonomous vehicles and some of the levels that they came in, and you look at some of the issues that, how do we help prevent the car from starting a trip to begin with if the person is potentially impaired with alcohol or with drugs? And, you know, the concepts there, I think the technology is moving forward in that arena. But I mean, even if it hit today, you know, for a vast majority of vehicles, it could be 10, 15, 20 years before it saturates the market. And so I think, you know, as we continue to look at those issues, I mean, I know that part of the safe systems approach is around the engineering part of this as well. So, and they all need to go hand in hand, but I think really is how do we really harness some of that education and, you know, looking at enforcement in a way to be able to stop preventable crashes from happening, which really comes down to, I think, behavior. And, you know, so I'd like to ask you, how can behavior modification apply to our world of impaired driving?
Well, I think three things come to mind in the human realm, which is how do we have the messages stop being avoided, meaning make them a way that's holistic and natural, and it's just a way of being. I don't get in a car when I'm going to go out and enjoy myself. It just doesn't happen. We certainly have seen Uber publish some data that they believe they're impacting impaired driving because they become, you know, the designated driver. But it's not broad enough, large enough. If we don't rely just on persuasion, we need to find a way to add incentives to modify people's behavior in a way to pay for that. That's where my mind is focused. Right.
Yeah, and I think it's taking advantage of some of those opportunities, you know, and I think for you, you know, from ONUS's position, what solutions does ONUS suggest?
Well, I think the exciting part that hasn't been explored in this realm is that true behavior modification happens in 4 different ways. There's neural operators where which is covered by education and constant information. Reinforcement, how do you get someone to repeat something over and over again? Boy, look at social media. You know, people are addicted to it. Certainly there's punishment, and enforcement goes hand in hand with that. But then choice architecture is a whole concept where you use the principle of nudging someone in their daily life toward the right attitude without preaching. And I think these things all add up to what we see in other areas, especially social media, gamification. How do we change something that we want to fully be embraced by humans that is like their addiction to social media? How do we get them totally involved in being responsible all the time in a natural way? And I think that's where we're focused is, you know, getting a tool in their hands, each individual, because ONUS only works when everybody has the app. You can't get a free ride if you don't have the app. You can't get the messages if you don't have the app. You can't earn ride credits if you don't have the app. So that's the human part of getting it into their hands, not to preach to them, but to give them a gift. So we built a platform where they earn free ride credits when they use the app, when they search, when they discover a new location, when they see an offer from a particular brand or a particular location. They make plans, they invite friends, and they book rides all within the app. So it becomes a tool that is part of their going out. And it reinforces that continual earning. And this is earning the ride credits or these incentives that nudge them towards this behavior until it becomes normalized. And that's why ONUS is very excited about what we're doing. And there certainly is a big glitch. You have to have the economics to make it work. So we had to combine something on top of it, like an economic engine that is sustainable. So if we don't link sponsors, advertisers, and the retailers or on-premise retailers, restaurant, bars, and tasting rooms together, that they all get a benefit, then they won't support it, the users won't use it. So we have to create this perfect storm and get those effective benefits in everybody's hands, while not violating the 3-tier system, which we've mastered.
Awesome. So, with that, I guess, how does ONUS help the bars, the breweries, tap rooms, taste rooms, any of those other places in using that ride share or other options to prevent the impaired driving portion?
So the important aspect here is we're not displacing Uber and Lyft. Actually, they're our partners, and we are not creating a rideshare company that operates cars. What we're doing is putting a free discovery tool in front of them going out, so that they're holistically and naturally discovering how to have a good time, where to go, and how to be safe. And so we get the tool into their hands, and then this becomes a low-cost marketing and advertising platform that enhances sales, where it's highly targeted. And I think this is the thing that makes it so effective. The only people that are going to use this are people that go out. They're the only people we need to talk to, and those are the people that ride the restaurants, bars, and tasting rooms need to speak to. So it becomes extremely effective, and it winds up being a loyalty program, having people, if they continue to communicate through the app to their customers, they'll keep coming back to earn more ride credits, whether it's through them giving ride credits or a sponsor giving it or our system giving it as we earn more and more money. That's our goal. Bring them more business.
Okay, that makes sense. And so has ONUS been tested with consumers?
Yes, we've gone through a long alpha testing, and then we did what you would typically call a beta, or we did a trial in Denver. We did just a 2-week trial. Our marketing was able to reach 1.2 million consumers. We had almost 2,800 get engaged with the app. We had some 230 or so consumer insider accounts, advanced insider accounts, and we had 44% of the people naturally be able to book rides without any education or training. So we believe the app and its design and its technology is proven.
Sounds like it's pretty intuitive for people that are used to using various apps for rideshare and those kind of things. You mentioned Uber and Lyft as partners. Who else do you have as partners with ONUS?
Well, we're fortunate to have RAD, recording artists for impaired driving or drunk driving, sorry. And Safe Nights is a community and a law enforcement educational program. And usually, just like the pilot, we team with locals, meaning local governments and industry associations. So for example, we had the Denver Chamber, we had CDOT, Denver, the Colorado Department of Transportation, MAD Colorado, and the Brewers Association, the Distillers Guild, and the Wine Association. So we create a storm around this subject because they all have a vested interest, just trying to get this engine to start. Because once it starts, it becomes self-sustaining.
Okay. So for our attendees today, our listeners, how do we kind of participate or even support these efforts even more?
Well, if you're a consumer, it is in the App Store, but of course we're just coming back from the pandemic, so we're not launched in any cities. We're actually targeting some cities right now with partners, and we're very excited about that. 2 of them look excellent. And then deals in ride share or ride credit earning will begin. So you could take a look at the app and show your support that way if you're a consumer. If you're a professional in the space, we'd love to partner with you because we're trying to create this platform that's available for a targeted audience 24/7, 365. So you can become a sponsor, you could be a messaging partner. There's a variety of things that we can do together. And as you said at the top, I stand ready to speak to anyone, and you can, I'm sure they'll put it in the chat so I don't have to, somebody doesn't have to spell it for my speaking. But request a sponsor doc, request a partner doc, take a look at the app. These are all ways that we can join together to make this and take the burden off the government to solve the problems, and have private enterprise combine in a public-private collaboration to build a sustainable engine to get in front of impaired driving. That's the uncharted territory. There's amazing systems, amazing professionals to help them after it happens and keep them from doing it again. But I want that new frontier, the front of it, to be a focus of ours.
Well said, Vito. I wouldn't agree with you more. With it's nice to have things on the front end and being proactive instead of having to be so reactive, especially around the impaired driving piece. As mentioned, we have noted the responsibility.org link and also the honusrides.com link in the chat. So anyone can go there. We will try to help promote this through our social media channels and some of our work that we do with our amazing staff. And also we have put in your email address if any of our listeners wanted to reach out to you directly. That email is in the comments section. But
and I guess if somebody's listening to this in the future for recording, I guess we should say it's Vito, VITO .Montone, MONTONE at honusrides.com.
Thank you. That was
just
my
dawned
next
on me.
part.
Just dawned on me. Sorry.
But you covered it. But this is such an important issue. As you mentioned at the top of our presentation, a third of all traffic fatalities in the United States are circled around impaired driving. And really, that number reflects alcohol reported or police reported alcohol-only fatals. Right. And, we mentioned at the top of the hour, or the top of the broadcast here, is the National Alliance to Stop Impaired Driving. We are seeing some devastating crashes involving drugs. So I think that is another piece here is, yes, it's bars and in restaurants and these types of things, but also recognizing that there are other impairing substances that can be addressed and through this process, and that they can have a safe way home instead of trying to think, well, I'm not that impaired. I'm not I'm not falling down. I'm not that drunk. But really is, if you've been drinking or if you've been using other substances, is really finding another way home. And that's where this ONUS is a powerful tool for that.
And I hope, and we certainly help after someone becomes impaired, but our real hope is changing the attitude towards not even getting in the car. And yes. I think that's the frontier that I'm focused on. And I'm glad that you brought up other substances, especially cannabis. For example, Las Vegas is about to release 200 on-premise consumption licenses. And we're in discussions now with the city and some of the other tech companies that we need to help make sure that those people don't get in the car to go there and wind up in an impaired situation. Obviously, they can use the app and Uber and Lyft to get home safely, but we'd like to change that attitude. And we're ready. We have a prototype already with cannabis integration. We're just waiting for the right city or state that wants it and make sure that it's available. Colorado, they didn't do a good job with it. So a lot of the people went out of business, the consumption licenses. So they haven't really crossed that yet, but we're poised to respond to that as well, just so you know.
Well, thank you. And thank you for your vision and your willingness to step into an arena that has been very complex and very challenging over the years. And how do we help change that behavior, that mindset, part of that culture, things that we value, attitudes and beliefs, to help really think twice before we ever get into a vehicle and drive after consuming substances. So I really appreciate your time. I would like to thank you, Vito, for all the time today, the discussion, the depth of information, and for the work that ONUS is doing to save lives. and that we can hopefully say that we don't have any fatality crashes in the United States from impaired driving. I mean, that would be my vision and my hope.
We have to keep holding that, right? We have to hold that vision. And thank you for your leadership, and thank you for the support of responsibility.org. It means a great deal to us to be working together. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, if you have any questions from our broadcast today, please refer to the chat for responsibility.org or for ONUS Rides. That's ONUS rides.com. Also, for any questions that you may have for Vito directly, you can email him directly at vito.montone, M-O-N-T-O-N-E, at onusrides.com. And with that, we thank you all for watching and participating with us and being one of those champions out there to stop impaired driving and saving lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.